Now, I spent a lot of time talking about the trading of the token. But what really is a token? Well, let's first think about what Dilbot says, right? So it says, maybe we should do an initial coin offering on ICO. Uh, Boss asks, what is that? And says, well, it's a non-equity process for raising capital that uses a custom cryptocurrency and the blockchain. And Boss says, so it's like a chain made of coins? Dilbert, I may be changing my mind. I may be wasting my time here. Bottom line is there's a lot of talk about what tokens are. You can tell people, some form of definition what it is, but really nobody really understands what it is. And I think this is a fair description of the world. But when you read things on the web, it's very difficult to understand. Now, I'm an economist, and this is an economic-centric program. So let's think about tokens like an economist. So, but first of all, let's take one example also from the real world. There's a Canadian company called Kik that started the so-called Kin token, and they issued it and they raised something like $50 million. Now, if you look at these valuations, which are on a log scale, they're on a linear scale, but if you look at the value of these tokens when they were issued, they basically shot up in value dramatically, and Kik at the time, or its tokens were valued at over $1 billion. I mean, this is a very remarkable increase of a modest amount of maybe 50 million to something like over $1 billion. Now, the question is, do they actually understand what these Kik tokens were about? Now, if you don't know what Kik is, Kik really is it's a firm which developed the BlackBerry Messenger. I mean, for those of you who are old enough, before in the pre-iPhone times, there was something called a BlackBerry, and there was a messenger there which was highly secure. And the team that developed this messenger basically founded Kik. Now, what Kik was also a successful messaging app until Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp came out. And they had a good following, in particular of young kids that would essentially trade, stickers and got other rewards, for instance, for watching an advertisement or for answering a quick set of surveys and the like. And what they wanted to do is they wanted to, issue these tokens so as to develop a developer ecosystem for their chat or their system Kik. So now the point is, of course, is that somebody here, right, Rachel Jackson, looked at this very carefully and said basically everything that Kik wants to do can be accomplished with a fiat currency and a simple payment integration within an app. So in other words, this token is really not necessary, right? And so the question is, well, it may not be necessary, but it is useful. How do we understand it? So I'm going to start by talking about a taxonomy of tokens by function. So there's a few questions that we ask. So number one is, of course, a cryptocurrency. Now, what a cryptocurrency is it is native to a blockchain. So examples, of course, are Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Ether, Lumens, Cardano. So this is an intrinsic system of a blockchain. The second thing, and this is very easy too, is you could have something that is linked to something that is off-chain. So that is not part of the blockchain world. So in other words, all that you do is you use the blockchain as an infrastructure. So you could have claims to revenue, cash flows, assets. You can sell parts of a house if you want. There's examples for that having happened in New York City. All that you do is essentially is that the recording device is not an Excel spreadsheet, but really what it is it's just an infrastructure, right? So just replace one with the other. And there's nothing in regulation that says you can't use a blockchain to do this, right? So, in principle, regulation is technology neutral. And then last, by the way, I should also say stable coins, which is something I'm going to dedicate a little bit of time to. Also, in my opinion, fall under, something that is linked essentially to something that is off-chain. It's not entirely correct, but the principle is that. And then finally, and this is the interesting part, is where there's a link to something that is on-chain. And this is really, when we talk about tokens, this is really what we mean. So where you link, where you build something on top of a blockchain, and there's various uses for these particular tokens, not just payments of some form. So that could be used as some form of reward, some participation item. You can use it for voting and so on and so forth.